achieving much higher rank. But he was not, in other ways, a disappointed man. There was the great solace of his happy marriage, of the child his wife Eloise had borne him, of his house. There was no other place he might more happily have lived than beneath the slated roof of its 3 grey stories, the stones softened by the white woodwork of the windows, and the delicate fanlight above a white hall door. Flanking it on its right was the wide, high archway of a cobbled yard, with cobbled passageways leading to an apple orchard and a garden. One half of the circle, onto which the front rooms looked out, was the gravel sweep. The other was a raised lawn that was separated from steeply rising woods by a curve of blue hydrangeas. The upstairs rooms at the back had a view of the sea as far as the sea's horizon. The origins of the Gaults in Ireland had centuries ago misted over, previously of Norfolk, so it was believed within the family, although without much certainty. They had settled first of all in the far western reaches of County Cork. A soldier of fortune had established their modest dynasty, lying low there for reasons that were not known. Sometime in the early 18th century, the family had moved east, respectable and well-to-do by then, one son or another of each generation continuing the family's army connection. The land at Lahardane was purchased. The building of the house began. The long, straight avenue was made, lines of chestnut trees planted along it on either side, the woodlands of the glen laid out. Later generations planted the orchard, with stock from County Armagh. The garden, kept small, was created bit by bit. In 1769, Lord Townshend, the Lord Lieutenant, stayed at Lahardane. In 1809, Daniel O'Connell did, when there wasn't a bedroom unoccupied at the Stuarts' Dromana. History touched the place in that way. But as well remembered, as often talked about, were births and marriages and deaths, domestic incidents, changes and additions to this room or that, occasions of anger or reconciliation. Suffering a stroke, a Gault in 1847 lay afflicted for 3 years, yet not insensible. There was a disastrous 6 months of card-playing in 1872, during which field after field was lost to the neighbouring O'Reillys. There was the diphtheria outbreak that spread so rapidly and so tragically in 1901, sparing only the present Everard Gault and his brother, in a family of 5. Above the writing desk in the drawing-room, there was a portrait of a distant ancestor whose identity had been unknown for as long as anyone of the present could remember. A spare, solemn countenance where it was not whiskered, blue, unemphatic eyes. It was the only portrait in the house, although since photography had begun, there were albums that included the images of relatives and friends, as well as those of the Gaults of Lahardane. All this, the house and the remnants of the pasture land, the seashore below the pale clay cliffs, the walk along it to the fishing village of Killoran, the avenue over which the high branches of the chestnut trees now met, was as much part of Everard Gault as the features of his face were, the family traits that quite resembled a few of those in the drawing-room portrait, the smooth dark hair. Tall and straight-backed, a man who hid nothing of himself, slight in his ambitions now. He had long ago accepted that his destiny was to keep in good heart what had been his inheritance, to attract bees to his hives, to root up his failing apple trees and replace them. He swept the chimneys of his house himself, could repoint its mortar and replace its window glass. Creeping about on its roof, he repaired in the lead the small perforations that occurred from time to time. The secatine he squeezed into them, effective for a while. In many of these tasks he was assisted by Henry, a slow-moving